Hey Bart, how you doing?
How's it going? Is that your name, Florida Bill?
Well, my name is Bill and it's Florida Bill playing on stream.
Okay, so this was a stream game that you're playing. And what live stream was this on?
The Lodge.
Oh, the lodge in
Awesome.
Austin. Okay. What is the size of the game here?
It's 510 with a $10 ante, but it's mostly playing 510, 25, and usually 510, 25, 50.
So 510 with a $10 ante, but usually 510 25. And what is in this particular hand is played what?
It's 510, 25, 50.
So 510 25 50. And how deep are you?
I'm the effective stack at 4K.
So 4K effective, which is like less than 100 big blinds, which is funny. And I always think it's important to note, and I've said it many, many times before, usually you see this as a Texas setup. When you have a game with like so many blinds, you have to like kind of move your position back, I feel like, a couple of spots. You don't just open the same range like you do in the cutoff in a normal two blind game. And that's because you're raising into more unknown hands. So, I mean, I remember playing in a small stream where we had like six blinds and like the button was like first to act. Like that shouldn't be a button open range. I mean, I know you're going to be in position, but sometimes people don't take that into account.
Yeah, and this game sometimes played all around, all the way to the 400 straddle once we got a little deeper. So
Wow.
you just don't know.
400 straddle, my God. Printing money on the short stack. Jeez. But with an ante though, huh? With an ante, interesting.
Yes.
Okay. So start us off here.
Yeah, just a little background. I'm from Florida. Obviously, I travel out there maybe once a month, once every 6 weeks to play on the stream and play in the room. The eventual villain is a very well-known, experienced pro, 10, 15 years playing. He plays on the Hustler at the Lodge.
What's his name?
And it's T1000, JC Templeton.
Okay.
So most folks probably know him. He is definitely capable of keeping the pressure on. That's kind of what he's known for, is constant pressure.
Okay. So, and he's the villain in this hand.
Correct. There's one other player on the button, and it kind of comes into play a little bit because I know him well, the button player. I probably played with him more than anyone else that I play poker with. And he VPIPs 50, 60% in these streams.
Okay.
Any two cards.
Okay.
So we're eight-handed. Want to just get into it?
Yep. Go ahead.
So again, UTG straddles to 25, UTG plus one, which is our villain, double straddles to 50.
Mm-hmm.
It folds to me in the hijack with ace of diamonds, jack of clubs.
So you're like Ace of Diamonds, Jack of Clubs. That's like second to act, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And I open for 150.
Okay. So 150, probably the standard. I mean, it's like 3x with all these blinds and stuff. Okay, to 150.
And in here, we've talked through this, and maybe it was a little small because of the action, but I'm still okay with it.
Okay.
It folds to the button, and the button calls. He's the person I told you plays sometimes any two cards. It's hard to put him on much because he plays a very high VPIP.
Yeah, and again, I'll continue to repeat. The more blinds there are, the more you're incentivized to play even the button as a three better fold to get the people out to your left. What he calls, okay.
Yep. The blinds in under the gun fold, and the double straddler, UTG plus one, makes the call. So we go three ways to the flop.
Okay, so it's probably 450 plus the maybe 485 or something like that.
500, I think, to that we go.
Okay.
And the flop is eight of spades,
Uh-huh.
two of spades, queen of clubs.
So Queen of Clubs, Eight of Spades, Two of Spades here with Ace of Diamonds, Jack of Clubs against the button and the double straddler, okay?
Double straddle quickly checks,
Mm-hmm.
and I check behind, and the button checks as well. So it checks around.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like that check. I don't know if I'd be c-betting here. Queen eight deuce, you got a loose guy in there. I mean, you didn't really flop. I mean, you have ace high, you don't have a spade in your hand. I assume that you were probably just gonna check fold. What were you gonna do if the button had bet and the other guy folded?
Oh yeah, yeah. If the straddle folded, I might make one call, but it's tough with him because again, any two cards. But I probably would have made one call.
Okay, so we'll move to the turn here.
The turn is the Jack of Diamonds.
The Jack of Diamonds. So now hero turns second pair.
Correct.
Okay.
Straddle checks again,
Mm-hmm.
and I bet 225.
Hero bets 225. I don't mind the bet here. I mean, you definitely could go smaller. I'm assuming you probably think the button bets off most queen acts when check to here.
Yeah.
9-10 comes in as a gut shot. You will see guys, I don't know, deal with the double straddle, but you will see guys check. He's going to be wide getting a price with all those blinds, and you only made it 3x. He might have a weak queen here, like queen 4 suited that he's not betting, but I don't mind the bet. The sizing is a little bit large for value / protection, but I think it's okay in a live game.
And the button folds pretty quickly.
Okay.
And the straddle calls pretty quickly.
All right, so the straddle calls. And it's probably right around 950 now, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So when again, this particular player is someone who puts a lot of pressure on. And when he checks twice, I can start eliminating some hands. And so I just thought that was I thought at that point that the Jack was probably good.
Mm-hmm.
But then the river comes and it's the ace of spades.
Well, okay, so the river's an ace of spades. So if the river was like an offsuit 3 and he checked you, were you thinking about value betting here?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you were thinking about value betting on like, a card that wasn't wet or connecting. Obviously here, I mean, it's an ace. The front door comes in, so it's 3 spades, and now you make ace jack. King 10 also comes in. The interesting thing about that is that once it gets checked through, you as the preflop raiser on the flop and then the button checks, I would say a fair amount of draws would be leading turn here. King 10, maybe some spade draws. Not always, but at least sometimes draws will lead out here on the turn when it gets checked through.
I felt like the turn, the only spades that he would check would be something really small, 5 something, 5 deuce, whatever. I didn't think that he would
like 5-3.
Yeah, I didn't think he would. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. I didn't think he would check a significant spade draw twice. So
it's interesting. I mean, you use half pot sizing. I mean, for example, if he had like 5-3 or 5-4 spades, like that is the definition of a dry flush draw, which is, just absolutely no way to win the hand except to hit the flush, no straight draw, nothing like that. I mean, he would have been getting over 3-1. So, I mean, I guess he's almost getting the right price. But if you had bet larger, you would think you would tend to discount these types of things. Now, obviously, your hand improves to ace jack. The issue is I would much rather see, obviously, like an offsuit 3 here, because you can have the best hand, but now some of these hands that you were going to get value from, like a jack 10, king jack, jack 9, it's really hard to call for that guy from out of position if you bet at the end here.
Right, and he checks again.
Okay, so straddle checks. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not going to bet. I'm just saying that it's not the best card in the world for you.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
I bet 425 for value.
So hero bets 425. I'm trying to think if the villain ever has any sort of single paired ace here. I guess it would only be like ace 10. Can't be the nut flush draw. You would think ace king's going to 3-bet off an ace 10 check calling turn. I mean, I guess it's possible. So what are you trying to target here?
I thought he could easily have ace deuce, ace 8. I felt like he could even at some point he might even have the jack, even though I blocked the jack. I felt like he might have the jack with something. Because he's in the straddle, he could even have had a 8 deuce, maybe even some queen 8, and just playing along until we got to the river.
Really? And after it gets checked through on the flop, doesn't bet turn? I would find that a little bit hard to believe. Ace deuce, ace 8, I guess it's possible. Him checking when the third spade comes in, you would see some people lead there because it's going to get checked through so much. Like I said, I'm not saying that I wouldn't bet, but it's just not the best card for you in the world. I might have actually even sized a little bit smaller here, maybe like 300 to 350, something like that. But okay, you go 425.
And he thinks about it and he raises to 2375.
So 2375. So 425, 1317.
It was 1375, I think, after my bet,
Mm-hmm.
and 3750 after his raise.
Right. I'm just like a pot size raise. I'm just trying to, 13, 17, so like raise, yeah, a little bit over a pot size raise here. So you bet 425, he raises 2375. I mean, this is another thing that we don't talk about all that much. Sometimes when you run into a hand that you kind of want to value bet a little bit, is that if you're up against capable players, you can sometimes get blown off your equity a little bit here. The only thing is that, again, I don't know who this guy is, but he really has to turn something into a bluff here that contains a pair, right? And a lot of times you won't necessarily see that. Like, for example, like King Jack, something like that. The theory of sort of check raise bluffing the river is to take a hand that might have some showdown value and check it, because if it goes check, check, sometimes he would win. But then when you bet, the better play might be to turn your hand into a bluff. Whereas if he had just absolutely nothing, that wouldn't be a great candidate to check raise bluff, because if he checks and you check behind, he just loses, right?
Yep. And I actually wrote down King Jack with the King of Spades was something that he could have here. And when that ace hits, then he goes,
The only thing that I would say here too about so I mean the pot's going to be what you said, it's so it's like 3750, like 1900 ish for you to call, so you're getting almost 2-1. I just don't, it's interesting because do you ever play ace king in this manner here? I
don't think he does, because I think he
I'm talking about you, yeah. Because if he doesn't necessarily think, like, if you never play ace king this way, he's really trying to get you off of either he has the best hand or you have like a 2-pair plus type of hand. I mean, you might. Obviously, it's a premier type of scare card. I mean, here's the thing about playing on a live stream, I would say, just a kind of like a little bit of a live hack. I would say that the bluffing frequency goes up. You know what I mean? If it's close, I would tend to do probably more calling on a live stream. Now, there are certain live streams where people don't want to look like foolish, but depending on the type of player, some people like to run, some bluffs, but obviously you don't really beat any value. So that the things I would be thinking about is this guy, is he good enough and capable of, turning some sort of hand into a bluff? You said he was a good player, right?
He's a very good player. He's one of the winningest players, I think, on the Lodge live stream.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I wrote down is, because I didn't see bet, that kind of, that capped my range, right? So he knows. He then knows what I don't have. And if you watch well, we haven't played it out, but if you watch the stream for another minute or two past the hand, we have a little conversation, and he was exactly on.
So Mad Mardigan 21 puts in the live chat, actually says something too. When you look at suit distributions, the only King Jack with the King of Spades is actually King Jack 1 combo, right? King of Spades, Jack of Hearts, you've got the Jack of Clubs, the Jack of Diamonds is out there, and can't have King Jack of Spades. I mean, that's a flush. So that's actually only one specific, holding. So, man.
And I'm not trying to say, I did the MDF math in my head, and in the 20 seconds it took me to make this decision, I against this specific villain who's very capable of bluffing, I have to have some defense. If not, he's just going to take advantage of you, and he's going to blow you off all your hands.
Right. And some of the better hands that you might have is something that was slow played on the flop, like Queen, Queen. If you turned Jack, Jack and you played it this way, or if you somehow like checked behind a flush draw and then bet turn. But the thing is that it can't be the nut flush draw because the ace of spades comes at the end.
I think I'm capped at ace jack or jacks. I think that's exactly it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, because you wouldn't slow play off on the flop, you mean?
Correct. That's just not how this game is played in this, on that stream.
Yeah, I mean, getting 2-1. I mean, I think it's close. I mean, I don't think it's a slam dunk either way. I mean, I'm looking at the live chat here, but I think that comment about only one king jack, it's kind of interesting.
That's
And
actually really good. That's a really good comment.
yeah,
And it's interesting. I kind of leaned back in my chair and I said, I value owned myself. And yeah, and then I tanked for about 20 seconds thinking, what is it that he could have and what can I beat? And
does he have any perception of who you are, by the way?
oh yeah, we've played together.
Okay.
We know each other.
And the reason why I ask that is because, like, if I'm playing against somebody who I don't think is going to be like value betting thinly and get scared on rivers and stuff like that, it's not the best approach to go for check raises with like, very strong hands for value because you're just getting checked behind so much. So, I mean, obviously you guys have history, but I was just saying, like, if he's a good player and he never knew who you were, that would sort of lead me towards him not doing a whole lot of check raising for value here because it's going to get checked through so much. But obviously that's not the case in this spot. What did you end up doing?
I reluctantly put in the call and he showed queen 7 of spades.
Queen 7 of spades. So he had top pair and a flush draw, and then he check called the turn. It's interesting because if he comes out and bets the turn, I think with the button checking behind, you probably have to call depending on sizing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he check calls the turn, and then on the river, he goes for the check raise with the second nuts. Again, I ask you, if you had ace king here, would you ever play it this way? You might not bet turn, but if you bet turn and got called, would you value bet river or would you start checking back there?
Yeah, I think the hard part about that is I think I c-bet ace king almost 100. And so I think I might not have gotten there.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had gotten there, would I play it this way? I think I still probably make the same bet, but I can maybe make a fold when he raises.
I don't know. I mean, if you're strictly just going by like the strength of your hand in MDF, but I don't know if it's all that relevant. I mean, there's no value that you're beating. I don't know if ace jack or ace king is necessarily. I mean, the thing about ace king is you block him having king 10. Like if you had ace king with the king of spades,
That's true.
that could be a better calling hand, right? But that's an interesting one, Florida Bill. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the call.